بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین، حسین شہید شہید الحسین، حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین، حسین شہید شہید الحسین. دہائی دہائی خدا را دہائی، یہ دشت بلا میں ہے کیسی تباہی، بہایا ہے کس نے یہ خون محمد، قیامت یہ ڈھائی ہے کس نے لائی، جوانوں بزرگوں کو مارا گیا ہے، شہیدوں میں شامل ہے ننھا سپاہی، کیا جشن برپا یوں اہل ہوس نے، شہیدوں کے لاشوں پہ ڈنکے بجائے، جلا ڈالے آل محمد کے خیمے، سکینہ کے منہ پر تماچے لگائے، جو بیمار تھا اس کا بستر نہ چھوڑا، نبی زادیوں پہ بھی در چلائے، اٹھی اپنے مرقد سے بنت محمد، سیاہ شب کی چادر میں چہرہ چھپا کر، گئی کربلا میں تو اس نے یہ دیکھا، ہے بوسیدہ کرتے میں ایک لاش بے سر، بدن سارا تیروں سے چھلنی پڑا ہے، لہو میں ہے ڈوبا ہوا سارا پیکر، تڑپ کر وہ چلائی شبیر بیٹا، لہو میں نہائے حسین بھی جدا ہے، तब किसने मारे हैं सारे बदन पर, ये तीरों पे किसने जनाजा रखा है, कहाँ है मेरा लाल अब्बास बोलो। मैं पूछूंगी उससे ये कैसे हुआ है, हुसैन अल गरीब अल गरीब अल हुसैन, हुसैन शहीद शहीद अल हुसैन। बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात।
Jazakallah, Brother Ali, for that wonderful recitation. Now, before I invite Sayyid Qazwini to start his majalis, we have a very special presentation by one of our Sunday school students. Sister Dua Zara will be reading a short speech for us in honor of Imam Hussein. Let's recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. Surah Fatiha. The arrival to Sham. The fourth Imam was asked to name a place where he had suffered the most. He replied, Asham, Asham, Asham. Why was Sham the place of the worst suffering for our fourth Imam? He remembered that Elibeth passing through crowds, roads and bazaars as people threw stones at them. He remembered how they were made to wait several hours at the gate of Yazid's palace as the decorations were completed. He remembered how Elibeth were sent to Zindan of Sham, a dark and dry dungeon where Bibi Sakina, the 4-year-old daughter of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, died. Yazid celebrated when he heard that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was killed in Karbala, and his family was being brought through to him as prisoners. Though the bazaars, what happened in the bazaar of Sham? Thousands of people gathered playing musical instruments. They had been taught to celebrate. Shopkeepers were asked to decorate their shops and markets. With the son of Imam Hussein in chains, Bibi Zainab and the family of the Prophet were brought through without hijab. The heads of their loved ones were now on spears in front of them. Before that, even the journey to Kufa to Sham was long and difficult. The camels were made to run, and many children fell and died. The mothers would weep and cry, but no one would listen. But at one point they stopped when Imam's head wouldn't move on. When the Imam came to his father's head, he saw there were tears in his father's eyes, and he was looking towards the desert. His aunt said, Zainab, his Aunt Zainab said, Sajjad, your sister Sakina is missing. Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam went looking and found that she had fallen off the camel. Bibi Zainab alayhi salam ran towards the desert. She saw a lady dressed in black wiping away Sakina's tears and talking kindly to her. May Allah reward you for your kindness to my brother Hussein's daughter, said Zainab. Don't you recognize me? I'm your mother Fatma. Come to reply. They cried when Bibi Zainab alayhi salam took Sakina in her arms and brought her back. The spear carrying the Imam's head could now be moved, but cruel Shimmer came up and tied up the little girl all by herself to the back of the camel with ropes. As the journey continued, the camels were made to run. The rough skin of the camels hurted Bibi Sakina so much she was covered in blood. The journey to Sham continued with more pain and sadness. Inna illahi wa inna alayhi rajiun.
Thank you so much, Sister Duazera, for that beautiful speech. Now, before we begin the lecture by Sayyid Qazwini, I wanted to share a couple of words that I actually had a chance to read last night after last night's majlis. This is from a book called Secrets of Divine Love, A Spiritual Journey into the Heart of Islam. The subject is the power of gratitude. The English word gratitude comes from the Greek word gratis, which means thankful and pleasing, but also is said to be loosely related to the word grace. In essence, gratefulness is directly related to Allah because it is through the doorway of gratitude that we experience Allah's grace and generosity. As Allah profoundly states in the Quran, if you are grateful, I will surely give you more. True gratitude or shukr is not based on your circumstances, but based on the state of your spirit. Our gratitude does not make God more generous. Rather, our gratitude makes us more receptive to receiving all that God continuously gives to us. Being in a state of gratitude is remembering that God loved us before we ever loved Him. And that is a very powerful sentence. God loved us before we ever loved Him. When we are grateful, we are vibrating at a higher frequency with more clarity and more awareness of our innate alignment with Allah. Gratitude is not an emotion. It is more a state of mind and heart. States of mind are different than emotions because they are like channels on a radio that we can consciously choose to dial into. When we are only thankful when we get what we want, then our gratitude is a product of our ego. When we are in a state of shukr or gratefulness, we are connecting ourselves to the divine name Ash-Shukr, which means the most grateful. When we are grateful, we are closer to our Lord. When we are in a state of gratitude, it is always of more value than what we are grateful for, because the gift will perish, but the giver of the gift is eternal. As Rumi says, thanksgiving is sweeter than bounty itself. One who cherishes gratitude does not cling to the gift. Thanksgiving is the true meat of Allah's bounty. The bounty is its shell, for thanksgiving carries you to the heart of the beloved. Since Allah is the King of oneness and pride, one of the ways the Quran shows us the importance of gratitude is by showing us the detrimental effects of ingratitude. In fact, one of the lessons that the story of the shaitan shows us is that if you outwardly worship God, but inwardly have an ungrateful heart that carries pride, you can fall from the highest heavens to the lowest hell, just like shaitan. The arrogance and greed of the shaitan shifted his focus from the eternal gift giver to the perishable gift, making his obedience dependent on getting what he thought he deserved. And I love this section here. It says, Iblis was already in the garden, already close to Allah, and yet his ingratitude to God and envy of Adam resulted in him being cast out of paradise. Whoever has an atom's weight of pride in his heart will not enter paradise, is a saying by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Since Allah is the king of oneness, and pride and arrogance are states of forgetfulness of Allah, which create separation, the prideful, by definition, cannot exist before God's singular presence. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now I would like to welcome Sayyid Jawad Qazwini to the member, and inshallah speak words in honor of Imam Hussein. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله وسلم عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة غريب مظلوم كربلاء يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيمة. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق وهو أصدق الصادقين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن يتول الله ورسوله والذين آمنوا فإن حزب الله هم الغالبون. Swing your gathering with the remembrance of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. As a gift to the soul, seal of messengers, the beloved of Allah, Rasulullah, and his honorable and purified progeny, recite the second salawat. For Allah to shower onto this gathering and to hasten the reappearance of Sayyidina wa Mawlana Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, recite the third salawat with the loudest of your voices. About 130 years ago, there lived a king by the name of Nasir Din Shah Qajar. He was the most influential and most powerful ruler of his region, the king and the Shah of the Persian Empire. Nasir ad-Din Shah was a man with one of the largest harems in history. It is said that he had 4 permanent official wives and 84 concubines and many children. Many of his children died at a very young age. He was also quite a romantic. In his memoirs, it is written that he, at mid-age, fell in love with a young girl, and the entire country knew about this romantic relationship between the king and this girl who refused to marry the king. And the king went far and beyond in marrying her and bringing her into his palace. And interestingly, all the kids that she gave him would die at a very young age. Now imagine being king, imagine being an emperor, imagine having 4 wives and about 100 concubines, and showing up home one day after a long day of work and asking your personal assistant, whose turn is it today? Well, you have about 90 options. And he says to him, what else? I'll take you to the chambers of the wife that you will be spending time with this evening. And it was customary that the wife or the concubine prepares a hookah pipe for the king, for his majesty. And she receives him with 2 hookah pipes, one for him, one for her. And they sit down and they smoke and unwind. So he goes into the chambers of this young woman and he does not find a hookah. So he asks his mistress or his wife. They were all his wives because he was a man of practice and they were his temporary wives. So he asked his wife, he said, where's the hookah? She said, I broke your hookah. You broke the king's hookah. I broke your hookah. No more hookah for you. So being the king he was, he went to the next chambers. And he said to his other wife, can you make us a hookah? And she said, no, I broke your hookah. He said, oh, many more options available. He went around and did rounds at his entire palace, and none of his wives were willing to offer him a hookah pipe. So surely, he said, this girl that I love, and I went to the moon and back to get her. If I go to her and I tell her, let's smoke hookah, of course she's going to be very happy. He goes. And she says to him, I'm sorry, I cannot offer you a hookah. I broke the hookah that you had here. So the king, loses it. In fact, he could have came to Houston, so many places. The king loses it, and he calls his chief of staff, he calls his wazirs, he calls in the middle of the night, come, what's going on? The king in his own palace cannot get a hookah? My whole family is turned against me? And one of his grand wazirs brings him a piece of paper. He said, it's because of this. He looks at it and on the piece of paper it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The consumption of tobacco from today onwards is equivalent to bearing arms against the 12th Imam, Mirza Muhammad Hassan al-Shirazi, sealed. It was a fatwa to prohibit the use of tobacco. A alim by the name of Mirza Hassan al-Shirazi sitting in Samarra, Iraq. He had no army, he had no political power. Issued a fatwa that was obeyed by the palace and the princes and the queens to override the obedience of the king. And interestingly, the history behind why Sayyid gave such a fatwa, why Mirza Shirazi gave such a fatwa. Mirza Shirazi gave this fatwa, brothers and sisters, because the people went to him and said to him, as a British colony, they have forced us to stop producing tobacco. All the farmers in that area are prohibited from farming tobacco, producing tobacco. And we must all purchase the British brand tobacco. And tobacco at the time was consumed like today, maybe even more. People smoked hookah and people smoked cigarettes, and it was everywhere. And now the people come to the grand marja', come to the Ayatollah, come to the head of the seminary, and they say to him, we need help. If you don't help us, we're going to go bankrupt. And the agreement between Nasruddin Shah and the British colonists was that all that region under his authority will import tobacco. They will no longer produce their own. They said to him, that's going to destroy us. And that's a moment when the religious authority and the Ayatollah and the seminary at its highest level backed up the average people and became the voice of the people. And farmers at the time, yes, maybe the vast majority of them were the followers of Ahlul Bayt, but some of them were not. Some of them were Muslim, some of them were not Muslim. They all benefited from the fatwa of Mirza Shirazi. And there were communications between the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Nasruddin Shah on who is this man. He doesn't even live in Iran. He lives in Samarra, Iraq. And he has more authority in your house and in your palace than you do. He's destroyed a whole economic agreement. Who is this man? What does he own? And Nasruddin Shah says to him, he owns a prayer rug, a musalla, a pen and ink. He owns nothing else. So the Prime Minister says, what is wrong with you? Buy him. Give him what you've sold. He's that broke. He says, that's a problem. He's not up for sale. And since 130 years ago until today, brothers and sisters, millions of dollars have been spent to study the marji'iyya system of the Ashari school of thought. What is this system? How can we buy in? How can we have influence? How can we appoint? How can we take away their independence? How can we make them less powerful? Because this power is unheard of. It is unmatched. A man who has nothing writes one line on a piece of paper and changes things and suddenly becomes more obeyed by the king's family and his wives than the king himself. And of course, to weaken the institution of marji'iyya, you have all seen and heard many stories and many people and different colors and different ways. And You see, brothers and sisters, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam has been narrated by all Muslims, Sunni and Shia, to say that the Khulafa and the rulers after me are 12. I'm going to only give one reference. Memorize this reference. Remember this reference. Sahih Bukhari. Sahih Bukhari for some of our brothers is above the Quran. They believe everything in Sahih Bukhari is Sahih. So what's the difference between Sahih Bukhari and Quran? They're probably equal. We don't believe in such a thing. We don't believe any book is equal to the Quran. But they believe everything in Sahih Bukhari is Sahih. Hadith 6668. In Sahih Bukhari, that the khulafa, the princes, the rulers, the successors after me are 12 and they are all from Quraysh. So Sunni and Shia all have this hadith that the khulafa after Rasulullah are how many? 12. Right? Okay. Allam al-Hilli rahimahullah, one of our great scholars, he wanted to have a debate or a discussion with the grand scholars of his time that belonged to other schools of thought. So he gathered about 30, 40 grand scholars of Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, and other schools of thought that were present at the time. Maybe not jurisprudential, but theological schools. And they all sat down. He said, look, as Muslims, we all believe the Khulafa of Rasulullah are 12. It's in Bukhari, it's in Muslim, it's in the Sunni books, it's in the Shia books. It's everywhere. They said, yeah, that's true. He said, I will give you a piece of paper. Write down the name of those 12 caliphs, but don't share them with each other. Now, those 30 scholars are meant to guide the entire Muslim community. Today, let's say we find a way to find the most influential grand scholars in the Muslim community. Find 30 of them. Okay? Some will be in Egypt, some in Pakistan, some in India, some in... Not the ones that ascribe to the madhab of Ahlul Bayt, outside the madhab of Ahlul Bayt. And we gather them in one room and say, look, Islam depends on you. Whatever you say, people listen. You're the top 30 influential scholars. This is the hadith. Write down the name of the khulafa. So they all get a paper and pen and they write down the name of the 12. Then Allam al-Hilli reads every answer. None of them matched. None of them matched. He said something that is mentioned by all Muslims. You guys don't have an agreement on this. After the fourth, fifth name, there's names all over the place. Some of those names, some of the Muslims do la'an on them, and some of them put their names as khulafa. For example, one of them was Yazid. Some of those scholars put Yazid as a khalifa, and some of them, amongst the Sunni schools, I'm not speaking of the Shia, some of the Sunni schools send la'an on Yazid, including Muawiyah. Today we have scholars within the time of hadith, such as Imam al-Nasa'i, and until today, some Sunni scholars that curse Muawiyah. He said the only school that has those 12 names in order is the Shia Ithna Ashari school of thought. And you go and look at those names. Did they go to school anywhere? Find me where they went to school. Find me a place where somebody came and said, I was the teacher of Imam al-Baqir, I was the teacher of Imam al-Rida. Was Imam al-Rida not the one who astonished the entire Muslim community when he started debating the Hebrews and their language, the Christians and their language, the Jews in their own books and their own language? Who taught him this? Which school taught him this? Was Imam al-Sadiq not the one who taught algebra and astronomy? Who taught him algebra and astronomy? Those are the names that we have. Those are the people that we have. Please tell us if they have committed a sin, if they have committed a crime. And the sign that they are the Imam and the Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, brothers and sisters. This is important. Keep this in mind. As that people need them, but they don't know them. They don't need the people. Go and see. When things got tough, they came to the doorsteps of Ahl al-Bayt. Imam al-Rada, Imam al-Baqir, Imam al-Sadiq, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, Imam Hassan al-Askari. Help us, Ya Rasulullah. Help us. But find me a time when the Imam, na'udhu billah, was confused about a mas'ala and he had to go to someone else. Even when they were in prison, they were the Imam. They didn't need to take the Imamah by force. Imamah is fit on them. It is a garment that they wear and no one else can. Now in the time of lack of ability and lack of access, what do? We, the followers of Ahl al-Bayt, believe you have three options. One, you may become mujtahid. Mujtahid, and don't think, no, I can't become a mujtahid. No, anybody can. If you study, you go to Qom, you go to Najaf and you study, you may become a mujtahid. In fact, that is something very noble to do. Studying in Islam is very noble. Having knowledge is very noble. And it is the greatest act of worship after Salah. After Salat al-Wajib, there is no other act in Islam greater than seeking Islamic sciences. This Mirza Shirazi that I gave as example, they told him, Mirza Shirazi, if you were told that you have one day left in life, what would you do? He said, I would do the same thing that I did today. I would wake up in the morning and go to class. Because there is nothing greater than learning and teaching in Islam. So first option is become a mujtahid. But that option is not available to the vast majority of people. 99% of the people cannot become mujtahid. The second option is to do ihtiyat, which is impossible. They should even take this option out because you would have to look at all the fatwas from the time of all the scholars until now and take the side of caution. Just finding all their fatwas about the mas'ala is going to be very difficult. Taking the side of caution is going to be very difficult. And the third option is that you do taqleed. What is taqleed? Taqleed is to emulate a scholar. Just like when you can become a lawyer or you can hire a lawyer. You can become a doctor or you can go visit a doctor. You can become an engineer or an architect or you can hire one. Choice is yours. Here the same thing in matters of faith, you can either emulate or you can become one. Now, vast majority of us, we cannot become one. So we have to emulate. And we do this every day of our life. We do taqleed. In the acts of worship, we do taqleed of alim. However, there are fundamental questions, pressing questions. This opinion of the doctor, the opinion of the architect, the opinion of the engineer, I can obey or I may disobey. I can take or I may refuse. Now, the opinion of the scholar, do I have the right to refuse? Can I say I don't want his opinion? Another question is, does he have authority over me? So let's say I say, look, thank you very much. I don't want to follow this. He says, no, you have to. The disobedience of the scholar, is it the same as the disobedience of the imam? The authority of the scholar, is it the same authority as the authority of the imam? Those are very important questions. Let's say I am a faqih myself. Can another faqih or a jurist have authority over me? And today, brothers and sisters, the Shia world, we find that there are two camps. One that speaks of the unlimited authority of the jurist, wilayat faqih. And the second camp is the one that does not believe in wilayat faqih, which is fine. But the problem is, we are not addressing the elephant in the room. It's causing a lot of disunity amongst us. And the problem is people who speak on the topic don't speak about it in an academic way. They don't even know what they're talking about. They think this is a football club. They think it's Ronaldo versus Messi. It's getting out of control. And the job of the minbar, especially for the followers of Ahl al-Bayt, like I said, is to give me something I can go home today. Give me something I can take with me home today. Give me insight in my faith. Give me knowledge. Don't force me to choose. Allow my mind to take me to the right answer. And I'm not here to tell you that Camp A, Wilayat Faqih is good, the other ones are not good. That those guys are more Shia, those guys are less Shia. That this scholar is better or this scholar is not good. None of that. We're not here to discuss any of that. What I am here to tell you is, if I were to tell you that you have to do this, that would be wrong. Why? You see, we read in the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein, إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن وعدو لمن وسلم لمن. I am a friend with your friends. I am a lover of those who love you. I aid those who aid you. I dissociate with those who dissociate with you. I am an enemy to your enemies. Is this not what we tell them? We go all the way here to Najaf, and then we walk all the way to Karbala, 3 days, and then we get to the shrine of Imam Hussein. We say those words, but we don't even know what we're saying. What we're saying is we're giving him an oath of allegiance and a promise that I am at peace with those who are at peace with you. I love those who love you. I aid those who aid you. I am an enemy to your enemies. But in practice, that's not what we do. In practice, just because this person follows this alim and this person follows this alim, then I think, ignorantly, that I can shame them, I can defame them, I can call them lesser Shi'as. And that is unacceptable. Do we not believe that we have an imam and he sees everything? We don't think that it pains him to see division in our community based on something that is meant to unite our community. Something that is meant to be a rahmah and a blessing for our community is dividing our community. They say that Jacob, the father of Joseph, alayhim as-salam, Yaqub, the father of Yusuf. Of course, he loved Yusuf. And Yusuf was beautiful inside out. And Yusuf was promised to Ibrahim. And then Ishaq, and then Yaqub, all waited for Yusuf's arrival. And now Yusuf is missing. And his brothers say that the wolf ate him. So Yaqub is suspicious. He knows there's something wrong, but he also says, how can I believe my kids are criminals? Not one, not two, not three. All of them became criminals. All of them see how much in pain I am, and they don't care. They don't move. They don't change. To think about it, to have a father who is a prophet of God, and he is suffering every day, and you don't care, is mind-boggling. So Yaqub goes out in the deserts, and he sits down and he calls the wolves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave permission to the wolves to gather around him. He says, did you eat my son, Yusuf? Because his brothers say you ate him. He said, no, Ya Rasulullah, we would never do that. Allah safeguards the prophets from such calamities. So he now knows his sons are lying to him. From one end, he knows Yusuf is okay, but the bigger calamity is my sons are criminals. They're liars. They plotted against their own brother. And he cries and he pleads and he begs Allah. And one day he's sitting in his musalla and the angel of death comes to him, Azrael. And he gives salams to him and he says to him, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Nabi Allah, any soul that departs on the face of the earth, I know. I keep record. Yusuf, the son of Yaqub, is not here. He's alive. So again, he is reassured that his son is alive. But the other side of the situation is very dark. My sons, all of them plotted against me. They are lying to me. They say that made him cry until he lost his vision. Because he had to see them every day. And every day he would remind them, repent. Stop. Don't do this. You're disobeying Allah and His Prophet. And you have plotted against another Prophet. Nothing would move them. You don't think Imam al-Zaman looks at all of us as his children? Did you know any father that wants to see disunity amongst his kids? Any father. Or a father's dream is to see his kids together. Live in harmony with each other. Love one another. So our role, brothers and sisters, is not to break the heart of our Imam, because that takes away the blessings. Forget about what's happened. The Imam's heart is a lot more precious. And if I go and use, those scholars in the end of the day, I have seen and you have seen, and it's a Google. You could just Google this. Between both camps, the ones that believe in Wilayat Faqih and the ones that don't, they visit each other, they write each other letters, there have been eulogies issued by them, they exchange letters, they visit with one another. The respect is there. However, like I said, some of us treat it as my favorite football match, my favorite football team. That's not how it works. Faith and religion, brothers and sisters, is a lot more sacred, and we have to protect our children against this. We have to protect our children for them not to develop the wrong habits, so that in the name of faith, they commit crimes. And today, I'm not going to tell you who to follow, who not to follow, whether this camp is right, whether this camp is wrong. No. Today, I want to share with you a timeline of how we started, how the taqleed of scholars started, and where we are today. So you, as a follower of Ahl al-Bayt, you even know, where does this concept come from? Was this concept in the time of the Imams? Are the Imams okay with this? Because I've heard some people claiming that taqleed is haram, and the Imam said it's haram. Today, Shia scholars saying it. Not scholars, well, I don't know what you want to call them, but Shia individuals. So we have to be ready. We have to have answers. Our faith has to be firm with facts. Stage one, brothers and sisters, goes to the time of the Imams themselves. Because it's important that the Sunnah, for us, Sunnah is Rasulullah and the Imams. That this initiates in the time of the Imams. And we find that stage one is a time where the Imams called their companions in a state of irja'. That is why the person you follow is called what is he called? Marja'. Because the Imam said irja', so they're called the marja'. What does this mean? People came to the Imams, and we will read the hadiths with the references. And they said to him, we have dispute amongst ourselves. What should we do? We can't come to Medina. You're far. So the Imam said, go to this scholar. Specific scholars. Or he gave specific references. He said, if you find a scholar with those qualities near you, go to him. Irja'. Until the Imam, the time of the Imam, the current Imam, the Imam of our time, Imam al-Zaman, who wrote a letter, Allahumma salli ala, who wrote a letter telling us who to emulate and what to do in the time of the major occultation, Ghaybatul Kubra. So that's stage one. Stage two is the stage from 320 to 340. from the time of Ghaybat al-Kubra, the major occultation, to about 100 years, 420, 320 to 420. In that period, for example, you find a scholar by the name of Shaykh al-Saduq, Radwanullahi alayhi, who wrote a plethora of books, and people used to emulate him, but he never gave fatwa. He only came and put in the hadith of Ahlul Bayt. So if you asked him of his opinion, he would respond with a hadith. And he compiled one of our largest encyclopedia of hadith. He sectioned them. Just like today when you go and you look for fatwas, he did the same thing, but he did not bring anything from himself. He only quoted hadiths from the Ahlul Bayt. That's stage number 2. Where the marji' was only a muhaddith. He did not put his input next to a hadith. He said, "Well, who am I to bring an input and put it next to the imam?" That's stage 2. Stage 3 is when the ikhbaris and the usulis had a division. We, the Shia, became 2 schools theologically. One are the usulis. Usulis are the ones that use reason and many other factors to derive an Islamic verdict, because not everything has been discussed by Imam. Did the Imam talk about smoking, vaping, cryptocurrencies? No. So now an usuli marji' says, I can use whatever information I have to derive a fatwa. And I will tell you whether that's haram or halal. Akhbari marji', what does he say? He says, whatever the Imams have not talked about is haram. If the Imam haven't talked about cryptos are haram. Imams haven't talked about credit cards are haram. Imams haven't talked about, so obviously we know that is a far-fetched lifestyle we cannot have. But at that time when there was a division, the ikhbaris believed that you can only emulate if and only if the Imam has a special saying. Bring me the special saying of the Imam. Don't add anything from yourself. That's a third. And fourth was a politically fueled time. About 100 years ago. And the time of Mirza Naini and Sayyid al-Yazdi, there were 2 camps. Both lived in Najaf. Both are giants. Both are scholars. One was pro-politics and one was not. One was called the Mashruta and one was called the Mustabidda. We will look at all of this and see at different times how the Shia community has responded to different challenges. With that said, recite 3 loud salawats ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So this hadith here is a hadith from a companion of Imam al-Sadiq called Umar ibn Hanbala. Umar ibn Hanbala. And the hadith is called Maqbulat Umar ibn Hanbala. He says, سألت أبا عبد الله. Aba Abdullah is Imam al-Sadiq. سألت أبا عبد الله. Listen to this is very important. عن رجلين من أصحابنا. He says, I asked him about 2 people. It's a hypothetical question. من أصحابنا, from our people. Meaning they follow the Imam. Meaning they are Shia. من أصحابنا بينهما منازعة في دين أو ميراث. There is a dispute amongst them, whether it's inheritance, whether it's a business transaction, whether it's financial issue. Something has gone wrong. It's a hypothetical question. And they go to a judge, and this judge issues one of them a verdict. Can he take the verdict from the judge? The Imam says, even if the judge gives the rightful person a verdict and he collects his finances based on that verdict, he has done haram. Why? The Imam says that. So the man says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, so what do they do? What do they do? 2 people from your followers have a dispute. They live somewhere else. What do they do? If they don't go to the judge, they don't go to court, what do they do? The Imam says, يريدون أن يتحاكم إلى الطاغوت وأمروا أن يكفروا به. Any religious authority, any authority to judge besides Allah has been forbidden. This is the words of Imam al-Sadiq. فقلت كيف يصنعون? What do they do? قال ينظرون, they find someone إلى من كان منكم ممن قد روى حديثنا والنظر في حلالنا وحرامنا وعرف أحكامنا فلينظروا به حكما. They go find someone who has immersed himself in our hadiths, and he knows our halal and he knows our haram, and he knows what we allow and he knows what we prohibit, and he becomes the judge. They both have to go to him. Now the Imam says, once he issues a verdict, if one of them rejects the verdict, what happens? He says, he has rejected me. The Imam says, and whoever rejects me, he has rejected Rasulullah, and whoever rejects Rasulullah, rejects Allah. This here is an irja'. The Imam says, go back to a scholar, but he doesn't give a name. He just gives description. This happens in the time of Imam al-Sadiq. So we know that scholars have an authority within communities. Communities must go to the scholars in such times, according to the opinion of Imam al-Sadiq. Another, for example, situation was the Imams used to send individuals to specific people. One of those people was Zakaria ibn Adam al-Ash'ari al-Qummi. If you go to Qom, inshallah, you visit Sayyidah Ma'suma in Qom, the daughter of Musa ibn Ja'far. Right before her grave, there is a shrine. The shrine belongs to a man by the name of Zakaria ibn Adam al-Ash'ari al-Qummi, rahimahullah. He was a man praised by Imam al-Rida. Listen to this. A person by the name of Ali bin al-Musayyab, one of the companions of Imam al-Rida, says to Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, شقتي بعيدة, I live very far from you. ولست أصل إليك, I cannot come to you, I don't have access to you. فممن أخذ معالم ديني, who should I learn my faith? Who should I take my rulings from? Who do I take my matters of religion from? Dini. Take my entire deen from. قال عليه السلام, the Imam says to him, من زكريا بن آدم القمي. You have Zakaria ibn Adam al-Qummi. Al-Ma'moon ala ad-deen wa ad-dunya. The one who is entrusted, who is a place of our trust in matters of faith, in matters of dunya and matters of akhirah. Look at the status that the Imam gives this man. The Imam says, you don't have to come to me. If you have Zakaria ibn Adam, go to him. Zakaria ibn Adam, like many scholars, felt at times lonely. At times he felt that people do not obey him the way they should. They do not appreciate him the way they should. They do not take him as seriously as they should. I have a whole lecture in discussing and examining the biography of Zakaria ibn Adam. So he writes to Imam al-Rida asking Imam al-Rida permission to leave Qom. That, look, I'm tired. I want to quit on this community. The Imam al-Rida writes in a letter to him, لا تفعل. Do not do that. Now this is mind-boggling. People in the old days, they used to do this, huh? They used to believe in this. They used to practice this. He says, لا تفعل فإن أهل قم, the people of Qom, يدفع عنهم بك البلاء. The people of Qom are protected against bala because of you, against calamities because of you, against plague because of you. That's not the astonishing part. Look at the next sentence. كما يدفع عن أهل بغداد بأبي الحسن. Just like my father. Who's his father? Who's his father? Who's Imam Rida's father? Yes, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. Where is he buried? Qazwini. So it's Baghdad, right? He says, just like my father in Baghdad, Allah protects the people of Baghdad because of my father. Allah will protect the people of because of you. I have many other references, but you get the idea. One, Rasulullah, the Imams, they gave criteria. One, no, specific individuals. Now we come all the way to Imam al-Mahdi Abdullah Ta'ala Farajahu. When he went in the major occultation, he did not choose individuals anymore. He gave us criteria. One of them amongst the many hadiths, فَأَمَّا مَنْ كَانَ مِنَ الْفُقَهَا, amongst the fuqaha, amongst the mujtahids, صَائِنًا لِنَفْسِهِ, he can control his nafs. His nafs is not let loose. He has it under control. حَافِظًا لِدِينِهِ, he is protective of his faith. Na'udhu billah, he doesn't sell his faith for dimes and dollars. حَافِظًا لِدِينِهِ. Not one day he talks about this thing because it's popular. Just a few weeks ago, I was somewhere, I'm not going to say where. And they told me this person who claims to be an Ayatollah has said hijab is not wajib. I said, no, I cannot believe this. Bring me a piece of... I read this with my own eyes. So the Imam says, not to him. حَافِظًا لِدِينِهِ. He does not change the faith of people no matter what happens. No matter how difficult or how easy the situation or how luring the situation may be. مُخَالِفًا عَلَى هَوَاهِ. He does not follow his desires. مُطِيعًا لِأَمْرِ مَوْلَاهِ. He only and only obeys Allah. Doesn't try to please the people. Always pleases Allah. فَلِلْعَوَامِ. What do the rest of us do? أَنْ يُقَلِّدُوهُ. They must follow him. They must follow him. وَذَلِكَ لَا يَكُونُ إِلَّا لِبَعْضِ فُقَهَاءِ الشِّيعَةِ عَلَى كُلِّهِمْ. And the Imam says, not all the fuqaha of the Shia will follow this criterion. Some of them will. Some of them will not have this criteria. Therefore, we find that the Imam also tells us that we must follow and emulate the scholars. And he's given us their criteria. The next stage, brothers and sisters, like I said, it's a stage of the scholar who has no access to the Imam and now he writes his books, such as Shaykh al-Saduq, Ridwanullahi alayh. That's the second stage. Third stage is which stage? The Ikhbari Usuli drift. And here there's a scholar by the name of Istirabadi who has many books, a plethora of books. He is a grand scholar, by the way. And he says taqleed, in the sense that we see it today, is forbidden. Which kind of taqleed is allowed? Because this is sometimes you might hear, some of our scholars used to say taqleed is haram or this or that. This is where it stems from. He said that the scholar can only reflect the opinion of the ma'soom. Because he knows the opinion of the ma'soom is the opinion of Rasulullah. The opinion of Rasulullah is the opinion of Allah. So there, you're not taking any risks. But if the scholar gives his own opinion and you ask him, is this the opinion of the ma'soom? He says, I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I've tried my best. So Astarabadi says, this is where we say, thank you very much. We can't take it from you. You see? So there are times and circumstances within our community where the essence of taqleed was being questioned and evaluated. So we see that at times Imams sent people to specific people. They gave specific criteria. At times taqleed was there, but depending on which kind. Is it to deliver the message of the Ahlul Bayt or to give your own opinion? And until 100 years ago, that's how things were. So if I wake up today and I say, if you don't do the taqleed of this person, then you are less Shia, or up until 100 years ago, there were no Shias then? Or they had no idea of how things should be? Only when you read history, you can have such an awakening. 100 years ago, there was a division amongst the greatest of scholars, like I said. And the Mashruta and Mustabidda era. Look this up. Go read it. Many Western academic sources have discussed this era. Many Western academic sources, from Harvard to Berkeley to Yale to Princeton to Exeter to many universities in the United Kingdom and the United States, have focused on this era. This era, our scholars were divided into two groups based on the Qajar dynasty. Qajar dynasty was a monarchy. Some scholars came and said, let's create a parliament. And they were called the ones that wanted to bring a republic and a reform. Mashruta. Amongst them was a Mirza Naini. Grand name. On the other hand, was another man. He was a Sayyid by the name of Sayyid Yazdi. Sayyid Kazim Yazdi, who is the author of Al-Urwa Al-Wuthqa, a giant. Both of them lived in Najaf at the same time. One of them was pro-Mashruta. One of them did not want the republic or the parliament. Yes, politically they had great differences. But in the end of the day, they respected one another and made sure that the community is not divided to a point where a group of the Shia, whether this was set up or this was like intentional or unintentional, that had really happened, it's in history, that they went to Akhund Khurasani, who was the student of Mirza Naini, and he was a contemporary to Sayyid Yazdi. They went to him and they said, we have a business. And amongst the people, some people follow you and some people follow Sayyid Yazdi. And we don't know, or if we take your fatwa, well, what about if we, your followers, take your fatwa, what about the people that follow Yazdi? If we take the fatwa from Yazdi, what about the people that follow you? And we're stuck. And they say, Akhund Khurasani told them, you take the opinion of Yazdi. They said, what about you then? He says, I am a witness here and in my grave on the day of judgment that Sayyid Yazdi is a pious man. He is a righteous man. He is a mujtahid and his fatwa is sufficient for you to make sure that there is no division in the community. So we have had times where scholars have political disagreements, but it probably brought the community united and together, not divided. Especially, brothers and sisters, if we live all the way here in the West, we must find reasons to unite. Find reasons. So if I exhaust all the reasons to unite with a brother of mine, I have to go find one. Not the other way around. And this is the job of the member. Islah. Islah. Because this is the theme of Imam al-Hussein. He says, I embarked on the journey of reform and islah ummati jaddi Rasulillah لكي آمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر. Tonight, brothers and sisters, we remember one of the most inspirational figures in Karbala. And that is Janab Hur. Hur inspires everyone in such a beautiful way. Because we all know that we have not committed crimes bigger than Hur. Our sin is not bigger than the sin of Hur. And the Imam Hussein that was there for Hur, he is there for me. And Rasulullah says, إِنَّ الْحُسَيْنَ مِصْبَاحُ الْهُدَى وَسَفِينَةُ النَّجَاةِ. Just like Hur was able to embark on that ship of salvation, I can also embark on the ship of salvation. He came to Rabah Abdullah, he says to him, Assalamu alayka yabna Rasulillah, hal li min tawbah. Oh, the son of Rasulullah, is there a way for me to receive tawbah? Imam al-Hussein knows him. He knows his voice. He knows who he is, but he asks him, وَعَلَيْكَ السَّلَامُ مَنْ أَنْتِ. Who are you? He does not say his name, because his name is irrelevant. Now it's about what he has done. Now it's about his akhirah. He says, يا ابن رسول الله أنا الذي جعجع بكم الطريق. Oh, the son of Rasulullah, I am the one who has caused this misery. I am the one who intercepted your caravan. I am the one who held you here in Karbala. He says, Ya Hur, tubta billahu alayk. Oh Hur, do tawbah and Allah will forgive you. In one moment, in one split second, he cleansed him. We say to him, Ya Aba Abdullah, we want you to cleanse us. We want you to also help us with our tawbah and our salvation. He says, Ya Aba Abdullah, I no longer will enter the camp. I will wait here until you give me permission to go and fight. He went and he fought bravely until he fell on the sand dune of Karbala. And he called out to his Imam, Assalamu alayka ya ibn Rasulillah. Assalamu alayk ya Aba Abdullah. Imam al-Hussein went to him, he held him, he honored him, and he said this statement. He said, Anta hurrun كما سمتك أمك أنت حر في الدنيا والآخرة. You are a free man just like your mother named you, and you are a free man in this world and in the next. And you know, brothers and sisters, they say the reason why Hur was saved and he received tawbah was because he bared the love of Fatima to Zahra. When Imam al-Hussein on the 10th of Muharram told him, Oh Hur, may your mother sit and grieve for you. He said, Ya Hussein, I cannot say the same about you because I cannot utter the name of Fatima in vain. In that moment, Imam al-Hussein prayed for his salvation and he received it. I tell him, Ya Aba Abdullah, we are all here and we are your lovers and the lovers of your mother Fatima. Ya Sayyidana wa Maulana. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. All of us, brothers, يا وجيها عند الله. Those who have special hajat, Ya wajihan 'inda Allah. May Allah grant you the visitation of Imam al-Hussein. May Allah grant you the ziyarah and the shafa'ah of Hussein. One more time. Ya wajihan 'inda Allah. Ishfa' lana. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والعلماء والشهداء وخدمة الحسين. And specifically Fatiha for brother Salim Hussein Abidi, son of Qasim Hussein. And also I was informed, brothers and sisters, that this residence belongs to the Dr. Riza, who used to live in this home. And subhanAllah, how circumstances have brought us to this residence. So let us also remember him. And a Fatiha, remember your parents, you remember all your marhumin. And a Fatiha إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. الفاتحة مع الصلوات. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. من الصراط المستقيم صراط الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا حسين
یا حسین. ہائے علمدار، 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 ہائے علمدار. کہتے تھے کمر تھام کے یہ سید ابرار. ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار. یہ حال ہے لاشے کا سنبھالا نہیں جاتا، سنبھالا نہیں جاتا. تیر آنکھ سے بھائی کی نکالا نہیں جاتا، نکالا نہیں جاتا. امداد کو آ جائیے یا حیدر کرار. ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار. زینب نے تیری آس پہ چھوڑا تھا مدینہ، چھوڑا تھا مدینہ. میں کیسے بتاؤں اسے سقائے سکینہ، سقائے سکینہ. مارا گیا زینب تیری چادر کا نگہدار. ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار. بازو بھی قلم ہو گئے اے بازو شبیر، اے بازو شبیر. ٹکڑے ہیں بدن آنکھ میں پیوست ہوا تھی، پیوست ہوا تھی. کس نے یہ میری ماں کی دعاؤں پہ کیا بھار. ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار. تم قتل ہوئے ہم پہ بھی چل جائے گی شمشیر، چل جائے گی شمشیر. اغیار میں رہ جائے گی تنہا میری ہمشیر، تنہا میری ہمشیر. زینب کی رضا بچنے کے باقی نہیں آتا. ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار. آتی ہے صدا لوٹ لو ناموس نبی کو، ناموس نبی کو. اب مارنا آسان ہے حسین ابن علی کو، حسین ابن علی کو. مرنے پہ تیرے جشن مناتے ہیں ستمگار. ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار، ہائے علمدار. ایک بات تمہیں قرب کی بتلاتا ہوں بھیا، بتلاتا ہوں بھیا. جب بھی کوئی معصوم کے مارے گا تماچا، مارے گا تماچا. رو رو کے پکارے گی سکینہ تمہیں ہر بار. ہائے علمدار، 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 ہائے علمدار.
حسین 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 حسین. یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس. بھولا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی. بھولا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی.
بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا بازی ہے دونوں بازو تیرے ہے دونوں بازو تیرے دین کی بقا غازی بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی چہر سمت تھے یلغار اہل باطل کی چہر سمت تھے یلغار اہل باطل کی علم نہ جھکنے دیا علم نہ جھکنے دیا اور نہ خود جھکا غازی بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی نبھائی اس طرح شبیر سے وفا تو نے نبھائی اس طرح شبیر سے وفا تو نے وفا کو کہنا پڑا وفا کو کہنا پڑا تو ہے با وفا غازی بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی کہا سکینہ نے بابا نہ پانی مانگوں گی کہا سکینہ نے بابا نہ پانی مانگوں گی بلا لو خیموں میں جلدی بلا لو خیموں میں جلدی میرا چچا غازی بھلا سکے نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی ہے دونوں بازو تیرے ہے دونوں بازو تیرے دین کی بقا غازی بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی بھلا سکے گی نہ دنیا تیری وفا غازی اور محمد وآل محمد صلوات متوجہ جاتے السلام علیکم یا ابا عبداللہ السلام علیکم یا ابن رسول اللہ السلام علیکم یا ابن امیر المؤمنین السلام علیکم یا ابن فاطمۃ الزہراء سیدۃ النساء العالمین السلام علیکم یا ابو الفضل العباس یا ابن امیر المؤمنین السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ السلام علیکم یا غریب الغرباء السلام علیکم یا معین الضعفاء والفقراء السلام علیکم یا مغیث الشیعۃ والزوار فی یوم الجزاء السلام علیکم یا انیس النفوس السلام علیکم ایہا المدفون بارض طوس السلام علیکم یا علی ابن موسیٰ ایہا الرضا السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ السلام علیکم یا صاحب العصر والزمان الامان 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 من فتنة الزمان السلام علیکم یا خلیفۃ الرحمن السلام علیکم یا امام الانس والجان السلام علیکم یا مظہر الایمان السلام علیکم یا شریک القرآن السلام علیکم یا قاطع البرہان السلام علیکم یا امام زماننا ھذا عجل اللہ تعالی فرجک وسہل اللہ مخرجک وظہورک السلام علیکم السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. اللہم